do some invocation mantras that will glorify our teachers in this line that allow us to have this knowledge. You can follow along while I chant. Om Jnanaturandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Gadata Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yes, today we'll talk about the glories of Lord Balaram, and if by chance, which I probably will, make any mistakes, please feel free to correct me, and please bless me so I can say something nicely. Hare Krishna. So in today's class, I'm going to try to cover a few topics. A lot to speak about Lord Balaram, but we'll just try to set the tone for the festival ahead. Questions we might answer today are: who is Lord Balaram? What is his mood? What was his appearance like in this world? And what are some of the pastimes he had? A lot of the content I got from this class is from my spiritual master, Vaisheshika Maharaj, and also from Amarendra Prabhu, who gave a seminar here in Tawako a few years ago on this very topic. So we'll start with the first question: who is Lord Balaram? Now, obviously, we know him as the elder brother of Lord Krishna, and we know that his name, Balaram, has a special meaning. Bala means the one with strength, and Ram is the one who gives all pleasure, right? But I want to pose a question to all of you to begin, which is, if you had to choose one, who would you say is stronger, Lord Balaram or Lord Krishna? I'll ask you guys by saying, if you believe Lord Krishna is stronger, you can raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And if you think Lord Balaram is stronger, please raise your hand. Okay, there's a lot of non-voting people here, but I'll take it as Lord Balaram as the winner so far. So somebody actually asked this question to Srila Prabhupada, because Lord Balaram means strength, so who is actually stronger? And the way Srila Prabhupada answered is, they were in Krishna Balaram Mandir, as you can see in this picture, and he showed them Krishna Balaram. He said, look, if you see closely, Balaram has his hand leaning on Krishna's shoulder. So this means that Balaram is strong, but Krishna is stronger because he can hold Balaram. So this is the answer. Like, although Lord Balaram is strong, the source of all strength is Lord Sri Krishna. So I just wanted to start with that. But now we should go and understand Lord Balaram through the eyes of the scriptures themselves. And to do this, we have to look at what different scriptures will say on him, or other words, we have to look at the knowledge that's given. Another word for this is tattva, which means that which is. It's really important before we go into the rasa of the pastimes of all these personalities, which may seem so sweet, that we understand who are they and why can they do the things they do. The reason I say this is because if we read these stories of Lord Balaram or Lord Krishna, like in the 10th canto, the really nice things we talk about in ISKCON, but we don't know who they really are. We might misconceive their actions. We might think, oh, that's weird, or why are they doing such things? So it's really important we start with the basics of who they are. So this is what we say when we say tattva before rasa. And one verse I wanted to quote from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that establishes this is this one. It's from the Adi Lila. It's Siddhanta Bolye Chitte Nakara Alash Iha Hoite Krishna Lage Sudra Manash, which just means it's important to understand the conclusions of our scriptures before we go into the deep relishable pastimes. So let's try to understand now, according to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, who is Lord Balaram? You know, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of this scripture, he wrote an entire chapter around Lord Nityananda Ram. Lord Nityananda, who's here on the altar, is none other than Lord Balaram. So we can understand Sarva Avatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan, Tan Hara Dvitiya Deha Shri Balaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the fountainhead of all incarnations, and Lord Balaram is his second body. The second verse here says, Ekai Swarup Donhe Binna Matra Koi Ade Koi Vyuha Krishna Lilara Soy. These two are one and the same identity. They differ only in form. Lord Balaram is the first bodily expansion of Krishna in Lord Krishna's accidental pastimes. So it's very obvious now that we know who Lord Balaram is. He's a direct expansion of Lord Krishna, and he's equally powerful to him. So we have to understand some philosophy around the whole point of an expansion in our spiritual knowledge, right? I'll start with this. When you have something, let's say you have a pie of like apple pie, okay? Now, when you take something out of an apple pie, you will usually think the apple pie will have some amount less, and then the separated part will be some amount less than the whole, right? Like let's say you have 8 pieces in apple pie. You take one out. Now you'll say the apple pie is no longer whole, and the piece that came out is only 1/8 as strong as the whole pie itself, right? So this is a material understanding, and it doesn't apply when it comes to spirituality. For example, you will think Balaram came from Krishna, therefore Krishna will become less powerful, and Balaram is less powerful than Krishna. But this doesn't work. And the reason is, according to our scriptures, we have in Sri Yushopanishad that says, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. It just says that basically the Supreme Personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he's perfectly complete, all emanations from him, including this world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. And because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains a complete balance. I know that sounded like a lot. What it just means to say is, even though Balaram may come from Krishna, Krishna is still whole, and so is Balaram. It doesn't mean that either of them are less powerful than the other because of this expansion. Then one more question may come. It's that how can you make something equally powerful and not lose any power yourself, right? And so there's one more answer we can find in our scriptures. In the Sri Brahma Samhita, it says, Deeparchire vahidashantarama vyupetya Deepayate vipitahetu samana dharma Yastadrige vahicha Vishnu taya vibhati Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. What this verse is saying is it takes the analogy of a candle. It says if you have one candle, and let's say you have 5 unlit candles, how will you light them up? You'll take the first candle and you'll go touch each of the 5 candles to light them up. But in so doing, you will not say the first candle lost its power. It'll still be, shining brightly, and each of the 5 candles will also be shining brightly. So this is how we can think about Krishna expanding into different forms, or Balaram expanding, losing any power, and with all of them being equally powerful. Okay, the last thing I want to say about expansions is that there's 2 types of expansions we have to understand. The Shastras say there's Prabhav Prakash and there's Vaibhav Prakash. What are they? Anybody want to repeat it? First one? Prabhav Prakash. And second one? Vaibhav Prakash. Now, what this means is Prabhav Prakash means when you have an original, the expansion looks the same, acts the same, and feels the same as the original. So when you have Krishna in the spiritual world, a Prabha Prakash could be seen when he did his Rasa Leela. He made many expansions of himself, all of them multiple Krishnas, They're all looking like him, talking like him, and acting like him. Now, when you have Vaiva Prakash, that means equally powerful expansion, but it looks different and it acts different. And the primary example that's given is Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is just like Krishna, as we've established, but he looks way different. Instead of being blackish like in color, he's as white as a lotus. Sorry, he's as white as a cotton ball, right? And instead of Krishna, who's known for having a flute and for like frolicking around, Lord Balaram is compared, and he said he's very strong, he's tall. He carries, instead of a flute, he carries a plow or a club. So this is just interesting to understand that you can have expansions of either type, an identical expansion or a different expansion, but they're both the same. Now, one more thing in the expansions difference is Krishna, when he expands, he's still himself. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, what? I am the Supreme Lord and you should serve me. But Lord Balaram is different. His mood is, what can I do to serve you? Lord Balaram is always interested in serving, and we'll come back to that point. It's important. So I have a few pictures here, and I wanted to explain what they mean. We have Lord Balaram who comes from Krishna, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that from Lord Balaram, other expansions come as well. You can see in the top with the yellow background that it's 4 deities, and this is actually the Chaturvyuha. These are the 4 predominating deities that expand from Lord Balaram. They're known as Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And then from them, they have other expansions and so on, until you get to the 3 famous personalities you know, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. I'll just briefly explain who they are in case it's new knowledge. This just means that Mahavishnu is the Vishnu who sits in the causal ocean. You can see in the picture all the way on the right. And as he's resting, as he exhales, multiple thousands of universes or millions of universes come out. As he inhales, they all go back in. So he's in charge of creating all of creation, this Mahavishnu. And as you can see in each little bubble, there is a Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, which means the Vishnu for that planet. He controls it. And while he's resting, from his navel comes the lotus flower with Lord Brahma, who takes care of the secondary creation of that universe. And finally, inside that universe, you have a Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, which is a Vishnu that enters into each and every atom, including each and every living entity, and it's there as Paramatma. So it's just interesting to see everything about this creation, ours and all the other creations out there, it's actually maintained, if you go all the way back to Lord Balaram. He's the maintainer of all that in his service towards Krishna. So one last famous expansion of Lord Balaram I wanted to call out is the picture below the 4 deities, which is Anantashesh. So Lord Balaram also acts as a resting place for Lord Vishnu. And I think Anantashesh is known because he holds all the planets in this universe together. Without him, we would be in disarray. So you can see that Balaram has a very key role to play in how everything is set up in this world. And we have to really be grateful for the service he's doing towards Lord Krishna. So I know that was a lot of hard philosophy and knowledge, and thank you for bearing with me. So now you understand who Lord Balaram is, his power, and why he's important for us, right? So now we can go and learn what is his mood. I've been saying it a few times, but I really wanted to explain more. And the fact is that you can take Lord Balaram as the epitome of constant service towards the Supreme Lord, right? All of the energies we've talked about, they're all not for his own pleasure, but for the service of the Lord, to facilitate all the jivas here, the world we live in, and everything that's created. An interesting fact I wanted to call out is the word Shesha in Anantashesh, it has another meaning. I think in ancient India, like Shesh actually refers to the word remainder in geometry or arithmetics. So like those of you who know division, right? Anything you have quotient, divisor, all these different terms. But remainder is something that means what's left over. So the reason I brought this up is Lord Balaram exemplifies the mood of Shesha, in which case, when you have service, he already does so many things. But if there's still some service that's left over, the Shesh, he'll grab that and do that as well. That's why he's also known as Anantashesh. That's a nice reason I found out. And Lord Balaram does a lot of seva through his energies we've talked about, but did you know he also did a lot of personal seva in his own pastimes towards Lord Krishna? And I can go into a little bit of that explanation too. It's really nice. It said that Lord Balaram has what's called Sankula Rati. which means that he serves in all the possible ways towards Krishna, specifically all the 5 different rasas in the spiritual world. Now, for those of you who may not know, when we mean rasa and spiritual world, we mean there's 5 different ways you can engage with the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. First is Shantaras, which means a mood of loving, but it's in neutrality, in peace, right? And the way Lord Balaram exemplifies this is that all the paraphernalia we use, whether even here in our temple or also in his pastimes with the Lord or even in the spiritual world, they're all expansions of Lord Balaram's energy. This means Lord Krishna's seat. It means the clothes he wears. It means the garland he has, the jewelry he wears, the umbrella he carries, the shoes he has in the holy places. So if you think about it, everything that surrounds Krishna is Lord Balaram's energy in order to serve him. And this is in the mood of Shantaras. Now, another rasa, which is above Shantaras, is called Dasyaras. This means the mood of servitude. How can I serve you, like servant and master? The way Lord Balaram exemplifies this is you can even see on the picture all the way on the left. He's always thinking about how can I massage Lord Krishna's feet? How can I make him comfortable after grazing in the forest? Something that's said is when Krishna wants to take a nap with the cowherd boys, Lord Balaram will think, who has a nice thigh that Krishna can go put his head so he can rest upon? And as you can tell, often he would call Madhumangal. Um, and Lord Balaram would think, even after Lord Krishna is resting, is there something else I can do? Is that person's thigh good enough? Does Krishna need anything? How can I serve him? So he's really always engaged in dasyaras in this way. Now, one level above dasyaras is sakyaras, which means the mood of friendship, right? And in this way, Lord Balaram also enjoyed with Krishna. In all of Krishna's pastimes, you'll always find usually Lord Balaram playing with him, or wrestling with him, fighting with him, or killing demons with him, or even torturing the gopis and Yashodamai with him. Like, is Krishna going to be okay? A nice way it's said is that Lord Balaram protects Lord Krishna, just like the eyelids protect our eyes. So that's how constant Lord Balaram is thinking, how can I serve Lord Krishna? How can I protect him? Now, lastly, the last ras above Vatsalya is Madhurya ras, which means the mood of conjugal love, like almost like romantic lovers, but in the spiritual world. The way Lord Balaram does this, which you might think, how can he do this, is that first, he has an appearance in the spiritual world known as Ananga Manjari, which is Srimati Radharani's younger sister. And as his role as Ananga Manjari, he helps the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Also, something that's very interesting is that, I'll start with this. You see on the picture all the way on the right, it's a picture of the Rajmandal, so like Vrindavan and its associated neighborhoods and other holy towns, right? If you see, it's in the shape of a lotus flower, right? What Lord Balaram has, I found out, is that he has the ability to open and close this lotus flower according to his desire, just like a lotus flower may open and close during the night and day. Now, I'll explain why this is important. When Radha and Krishna would have their pastimes, they would often meet up, enjoy together. But this would happen in the nighttime without the families or anybody knowing. This is part of the sweetness. So Lord Balaram, at this time, he would try to close the flower so that far distances in Rajmandal would become very close, and Radharani and Krishna could meet up faster and easier. And then the opposing side, when the daytime would come and Jatila would wake up and say, "Where's my daughter-in-law, Radharani?" And then when people say, "Where's Krishna?" At that time, Balaram would open the lotus back up so that Radha and Krishna would automatically be very far and separated and unsuspicious. So it's very interesting how like Lord Balaram controls Vrindavan in this way. And so he facilitates the Madhurya Ras in his capacity of opening and closing the lotus flower. So you can see like Lord Balaram has now done a lot of service. We can see through his expansions, through his personal seva. And actually there's one more way. Lord Balaram serves even all of us, even today, as his role as the original guru, right? I have some pictures here. First is Lord Balaram himself, then Lord Nityananda Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. These are all ways he helped through his energy or through his representatives to save all of us. The reason is that there's a lot of jivas out there, created by the Mahavishnu and all the Vishnus, but there's some jivas who are rebellious, who do not want to serve Krishna or take care of him or go or have any interest to go back to him. So for those jivas, he will descend as the guru and try to save them as well. That's why he's important as a guru, right? And the importance of guru is a whole another topic, but a nice analogy about the importance of guru is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, an acharya in our sampradaya. He says, we as conditioned souls, you can think about us as burning in a forest fire of material existence, right? Of never-ending birth and death and old age and suffering. And when there's a forest fire, what can quench it? What can get rid of it? Will it be like a hose of water? No. Will it be like a bucket of water? Not even that. What can only quench a forest fire is a large amount of clouds come and give absolute torrents of rainfall. So the water that'll save us is actually the ocean of mercy that is Krishna. So there's an ocean of mercy, Krishna, and we're in this forest fire. But what connects us is that cloud. And the cloud is known as Guru in this analogy, right? The Guru will come, have the potency to take the mercy that Lord Krishna has, then bring it to the devotees or to the people suffering in this material world who are just burning away, and will pour all of it costlessly. It's not like the fire will say, oh, where are you, cloud? Please come save me. The cloud will just come and save the forest fire, right? So in that way, the guru comes and saves all of us. It's really important to understand. And all the gurus we have today, no matter how they look or act or anything, if they're bona fide, all of their potency is empowered by Lord Balaram, right? And let me give you one more analogy that's nice. It's exemplified through our Srila Prabhupada, like the mercy of a guru to show that even without asking, he will come save you. Let's say there's a test that's being given, and we go to write that test, right? If Lord Krishna was the administrator of that test, he would say, whatever you score for, I will give you that score. So if you pass this exam, I'll be just, and I'll make sure you pass, right? Because Krishna is all about justice and all about karma. Whatever you deserve, I'll be giving you. Then the analogy goes, but if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was administering the test, he would say, okay, just come to the test, write your name, write a few questions. I'll make sure you pass somehow. I'm just merciful, okay? But then Nityananda Mahaprabhu is one level above that. He'll say, if you come, if you even just show up to the room and don't do anything else, I'll make sure you pass. But the most merciful is our guru, like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada would say, you don't even have to show up to the test. I'll come to your door and I'll save you. So that's the mercy of a guru. And Srila Prabhupada and all our gurus are empowered essentially by Lord Balaram as his position as Adi Guru. So now the first half of the lecture is over, which is all about knowledge and philosophy and tattva and all the quote unquote boring stuff. So again, thank you for bearing with me. Now that you really understand everything, like the basics about Lord Balaram, we can go into some of the pastimes he has, starting with his appearance, which have a lot of sweetness embedded within it. So I'll start off by giving the context of how the Lord appeared. Of course, many of you will know this, but it's always nice to hear again and again. It all started when Devaki and Vasudev were getting married, right? And they were being driven in the chariot by Devaki's brother Kamsa. When Kamsa heard the voice in the sky saying, you fool, did you know Devaki's 8th child will be the slayer of you, and you're still driving her like a fool? And after hearing this, Kamsa becomes very angry, and as you can see in the picture, he tries to then immediately kill Devaki. Vasudev keeps him at bay, and he compromises so that Kamsa just takes them and puts them in a prison house. From then on, we know year after year for 6 years, Devaki and Vasudev conceive 6 children, each of which Lord Kamsa will come and mercilessly kill. Now the question that's asked is, why is this needed? Like so much suffering for such good devotees in Devaki and Vasudev. Is it like what's the purpose behind this? And the reason is that Lord Krishna always has a way of combining different things in one go. I'll explain. These 6 children are not ordinary jivas. They actually have a backstory, which is that they are the children of a demon known as Kalanemi. Now, Kalanemi, to put in context, is the son of Hiranyakashipu. So, therefore, these 6 children of Kalanemi are the grandchildren of Hiranyakashipu. And since there were 6 children, they were known as the Sadgarbhas. So, as the Sadgarbhas grew up, although they were of demoniac nature, they started to get this desire that we don't really want to be associated with Kamsa anymore. And then they started worshipping Lord Brahma and asking him for boons. And seeing their actions, Hiranyakashipu got very angry. He thought, how can you renounce me? And how can you go to Lord Brahma and start doing these things? In fact, because you're taking refuge in these powers, I'm going to curse you, that you all, 6 children, have to take another birth in which you'll be killed by your own father. And so this explains the Sadgarbhas, they came as these 6 children of Devaki and Vasudev, and their father, Kamsa, was actually Kalanemi, their original father in the previous life. So this is why the 6 children had to undergo all the suffering. It wasn't without any reason. And it just goes to show that Krishna is a mastermind. Like, he can combine many things in one and get it all done. And it's up to us to understand through our acharyas and scriptures why these things are happening. Now, there's one more reason we can understand about these 6 children having to die. Because you might say, all right, but why should they die in Devaki's pastime? Isn't this like very inauspicious for when the Lord has to appear? We want something auspicious and good when the Lord comes, right? The reason is that there's one more analogy that's given. These 6 children, they're also referred to as the 6 vices or the 6 sins we have to overcome in our hearts as human beings and as conditioned souls. That's Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya, which represent lust, anger, greed, attachment, pride, and envy. So it's said that only once we work on cleaning ourselves of these 6 sins from our heart can then that next follow up. What is the next follow up? After the 6 children came Lord Balaram, right? The Guru. So in that same way, once we clear our heart of these 6 vices, then Lord Balaram can come as Guru and start saving us more and more. Because Lord Balaram comes for what in this pastime? He comes to get everything ready for Krishna. So he came in the womb to prepare the womb, prepare the environment, everything for Krishna. And in that same way, the Guru can enter our life and prepare our heart for attaining a higher level of Krishna consciousness. So I hope those reasons can help explain why this pastime occurred the way it did. And now we can go into what happened in the actual instance of Lord Balaram coming, right? Okay, before that. So when Devaki had those 6 children, they were all killed. So now the 7th one, Lord Balaram, has come in Devaki's womb. That's where we're at in the story, okay? At this time, Lord Krishna is speaking to Yoga Maya. And he says, actually, I know Lord Balaram is in Devaki's womb. For my pastimes, I need him to be transferred to Rohini's womb. Devaki is in Mathura and Rohini is in Gokul, right? And Rohini is the other wife of Vasudeva. So Krishna has asked this out of Yoga Maya. But she'll respond saying, how can I do such a thing? Lord Balaram is the Lord, like I'm just your servant. I have no capability to transfer the Lord of strength from one womb to another. Any other jiva, sure, but not him. But Lord Krishna says, don't worry, I give you my blessings. Please go ahead and do this transfer. It's part of my pastime. And as you all know, like Krishna had a mastermind here as well. He wanted to do a 3-way switch. He wanted Lord Balaram to be transferred from Devaki to Rohini. Then he wanted Yoga Maya. He asked her to come in the womb of Yashodamai, and he himself went in the womb of Devaki. After which he would then orchestrate the Krishna and the Yoga Maya child being swapped. So that way, all the 3 mothers have some action going on with their babies, right, during this time. And at the end of this, Yoga Maya will say, okay, I'll do. I'm just here to remind you of what that is. So one more thing is, Devaki and Rohini, like how did this whole transfer take place? It said that Devaki and Rohini were put into a state called Yoga Nidra, which is another way to say it is like transcendental sleep, where they were unconscious. And then Krishna told both of them, don't worry, I'm orchestrating something here. You're just my instruments. Devaki, when Balaram transfers from your womb to Rohini's, it'll look like a miscarriage, but it's not. Everything will be okay. And the last thing is, Balaram had stayed in Devaki's womb for 6 months, right? Before he was transferred to Rohini. Once he came to Rohini's womb, he stayed there for 8 months. So you should do the math. Something seems off here. 6 plus 8 is 14 months in a womb, right? Now, usually there's 9 months in a womb. If a baby comes out before then, we'll say it's a premature birth. And it's often known because the baby is weaker and not able to sustain well, right? But if the baby is birthed exactly at 9 months around that time frame, it's relatively, on average, good, healthy, and fine. But now think, Lord Balaram wanted to show how powerful he is. He stayed there for 14 months, so he came out late to show that he's going to be extra strong and powerful. He's not premature, he's not on time, he's after time. Right? So that's just something nice. And then eventually when Lord Balaram came, Rohini was so happy as a mother because he came out like a white lotus flower, and she just felt like she was a lioness birthing this lion, right? So that's how the Lord Balaram appeared in this world. And this leads us to go into the final part of the lecture, which is what are some of the pastimes or the importance of what he did, right? It said that once Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram appeared as these beautiful babies in Vrindavana, they had so many sweet pastimes. We all know about it from the Krishna book or from the Bhagavatam, right? I wanted to just take a moment to appreciate Vrindavan for this, because Vrindavan is the only place where the Lord and his energy, Krishna and Balaram, can act as if they're not God themselves. In this case, they're treated just like ordinary cowherd boys. They are chased, they're scolded, they're slapped, and then they're taught different things. And they take all of this with so much happiness, right? You can't find this in other places, no matter how exalted they may be. Even in Vaikuntha, the Lord is only treated like the Lord himself, with a lot of awe and reverence and respect. And while he enjoys that, he has a part of him that really enjoys this rasa of, like Vatsalya ras, like Yashodamai chastising the Lord for eating the dirt, etc. So, like thinking about all these things, even Lord Brahma glorified Vrindavan. And I wanted to just share one verse in the Bhagavatam where he does so. He says, Aho bhagyam nanda gopa rajaukasam yan mitran paramanandam purnam brahma sanatanam. In this, he's just basically saying how greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the other inhabitants of Rajabhumi. There is no limit to their good fortune, because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal supreme Brahman, has become their friend. So yes, Krishna and Balaram, they were just acting as ordinary cowherd boys, as the friends, as mere mortals. And that gave so much sweetness to Vrindavan we can't find anywhere else. And now I'll briefly talk about the different pastimes you all know of about Lord Balaram. These are commonly known, right? The first picture you can see is Lord Balaram slaying who? Anybody want to guess? Yeah, Dhenukasura, right? And I'll give you a little context of this in case it refreshes your memory or you just want to hear it again. Dhenukasura he was a powerful demon, and he was in the shape of a donkey, right? And he was protecting a forest called Dalavan Forest. In this forest, there was sumptuous fruits and flowers. And when Krishna, Lord Balaram, and the cowherd boys appeared, they were interested to enjoy this, right? So it said that Lord Balaram went into the forest. He started shaking the trees to get the fruits. And seeing this commotion and noise, Dhenukasura appeared, and he became very angry. So what he did to retaliate is he took his two rear legs and tried to kick Balaram in the chest. But our Lord Balaram, he's the Lord of strength. He just picked those two legs up, started twirling him, and then threw him in the sky into the trees. And then one after another, all the other allies of Dhenukasura, the different donkeys, they came and tried to attack Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and all the cowherd boys. And this picture beautifully shows how both of them did some teamwork and threw all these donkeys on the trees. Now, one detail that's sweet about this is when the donkeys are falling on trees, so like all these ideas you might find in modern stories, you can trace it back to Bhagavatam somehow or another. So Pralambasur, he came as this cowherd boy. He was playing with all of them. And they played this game where at the end, the losing team would have to carry the winning team on their shoulders. And so Pralambasura came as a loser, and he chose to pick up Lord Balaram on his back. And then Pralambasura, like all these losers, had to carry the winners to a certain location in the forest. So they all started. But Lord Balaram noticed that all of a sudden, this Pralambasura, or this supposed cowherd boy, was running a different direction, away from the specified location. So something was off. And so Lord Balaram, suspecting something off, he decided, let me increase my weight slowly and slowly and see what happens, because he has unlimited weight he can give. And as Lord Balaram increased the weight on the shoulders of this supposed cowherd boy, the demon couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't sustain the energy to keep in this artificial form, and he went back to his real form as this big, large, dark-colored demon, right? And then by then, all Lord Balaram had to do is one smash of a fist on his head, broke his skull open, and Pralambasura was dead. And so one takeaway we can have here is that all our sins, we should pray to Lord Balaram to come and smash them away, just like he smashed demon Pralambasura, because only he has the power to kill all of these demoniac tendencies within us. The last one I wanted to share was actually on the right-hand side. Does anybody want to guess who is sitting on the seat? Yeah, Roma Harshana. So you already know. But I didn't know the story, so I'll still explain it for my own beneficial. So towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, there's a lot of sages, thousands of sages were assembling on the banks of the Naimisharanya forest, and they were going to do a 1,000-year yajna in order to pray for all the souls of Kali Yuga. And they appointed their leader as Roma Harshana. So he's the one sitting on the chair. And he was a disciple of Vyasadeva. And he was actually one of the original listeners of the Bhagavatam when Shukadev Goswami said it. So when Lord Balaram entered this assembly of sages, everybody rose in respect of him and offered their obeisances, right? Knowing him that he's equivalent to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, the only person who didn't was Roma Harshana. He was proud of his lineage, his parentage, his blood, and he thought, actually, I might be this Brahmana. Lord Balaram, he's just a Kshatriya. Like, I don't have to really give my respect to him. And I'm seated here. I'm the leader. So why should I offer anything? So he just sat there quietly. And Lord Balaram, one thing you should know is that he gets angry easily. So you don't want to mess with him. So when Roma Harshana did this, Lord Balaram understood that he was getting a little bit puffed up by his position. And he didn't actually apply all the knowledge he knew. So what he did is he simply took a blade of grass, went up to Roma Harshana, and touched it to his head, and subsequently killed him. Then he put, when this happened, actually the Bhagavatam says, all the sages were in anxiety. They said, actually, we installed Roma Harshana there. This is a great blunder. What are we going to do? You have to fix it. And Lord Balaram appeases them by saying, don't worry. Whatever the father should have, the child can also take up. So in the place of Roma Harshana, I will install Sutta on this chair. And that's how, I believe, next we hear how Sutta Goswami recites the Bhagavatam to everybody in the Naimisharanya forest. And there's other things Lord Balaram had to do to appease the Brahmanas, which he did, kill other demons and help them out. But I wanted to show through all these pastimes that, the best thing you can find in this world, honestly, is Krishna Katha and the stuff you read about here in the Krishna book and etc. That's just a personal realization I had because, we're all growing up in this material world. We have so many illusions or distractions out there. We think if I just get this, if I just get that, I'll be really happy. For some time you might, but it'll fall apart, right? So it's important that we remember there's so much sweetness in our scriptures. So if we go through the tattva, learn what there is to know, then we eventually escalate to the leelas and look at these pastimes, then read the different acharyas and what they say about it. You can swim in that ocean of nectar. And when I was researching for this class, I was just realizing for a bit oh, this is really nice. I wish I could do this more. So I just wanted to say this as a reminder for everybody else too. Even if you might not give class, take the time every day to read a few pages, to read our scriptures, because there's a world out there. And I'll give you an analogy. When I was growing up, my favorite book series used to be Harry Potter. The reason is that it wasn't just a book contained within itself. There's a universe out there. Same thing now with Marvel, right? There's so much happening. And that really engages the human mind. So in that same way, if we turn back to our literatures, there's a whole universe out there. And you can learn so many nice things, and that's what I'm discovering in my life. So the last thing I wanted to share to conclude is a reminder of what we've discussed today. First is that Lord Balaram is none other than Lord Krishna in potency. The only difference is that he looks different and he acts slightly different. Instead of being blackish colored, he's white colored. Instead of saying, everybody serve me, he's saying, what service can I do for Krishna, right? Then we have to remember Balaram, he does 3 types of service. First is through his expansions, like the Chaturvyuha, different Vishnus. Then he does service by himself to Lord Krishna and the devotees. And then finally, he does service to all of us by giving us the chance to approach Guru and go back to Krishna, right? Then we can understand how the Lord appeared and remember that. We can understand the reasons for the 6 children. We can understand how Lord Balaram came for 6 months, then 8 months, and then came out so strong. And then we can understand the sweetness of the Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan. Then finally, we can look at all these demons healed and pray for strength to kill our own demoniac tendencies. So there's so many things to learn about Lord Balaram, and we really need his blessings if we want to advance in our spiritual life. So the last thing I'll show is that I found a prayer from the Garga Samhita, and I have some personal bias, so it was really nice when I read it. I'm just going to share it, and I think many of you can see why I liked it. It says, Om Balabhadro Ramabhadro Rama Sankarshna Achyuta Revati Ramano Deva Kama Palo Halayudha. The meaning of this verse, just to finish, is Lord Balaram is supremely powerful and happy, Balabhadra, the supreme enjoyer, Ramabhadra and Ram, all attractive, Sankarshana, infallible, Achyuta, the lover of Revati, Revati Ramana, the splendid supreme personality of Godhead, Deva, and the Lord who fulfills desires, Kama Pala, and he who carries a plow weapon, Halayudha. With that, I wanted to conclude and just say one last thing, which is anything good you may have heard from me today is the result of my gurus and the devotees' blessings. Nothing is of my own, and anything bad or any mistakes you may have heard, that's due to my own deficiencies, and I'll ask you to please forgive me and correct me. Thank you very much. I guess if there's any reflections or comments or questions, we can take one or two. Yes, Namrata.
Thank you for the next question about the analogy you gave about the past protocol and and kind of explain what you mean by the that we don't have to appear for the tax onto your house. Can you kind of explain what that means to you?
Sure. What I understood from that is often, for any personality, we have to go visit them in their temple to get their darshan, to get their mercy, and to learn. But the essence of that analogy was Srila Prabhupada was so kind that at the age of 70, he left India to come to America for us. He went door to door to distribute these books that he wrote so painstakingly, and then he taught everybody. He traveled around the world 7 times. He didn't ask anybody to come to him. He said, "Let me come to you." And he did so much for us at the age of retirement, honestly, which is astounding. So that's what I tried to do for that. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu?
Which version of Lord
I didn't quite hear. Can you say that again?
I say, which version of Lord Vishnu is on the Shesh lap? Mahavishnu or Bhagavad?
That's a good question. Let me ask my superiors first if they know anything. Either Mataji or
Mahavishnu.
Mahavishnu. Yeah. I was gonna say I thought all Vishnus, but yeah, Mahavishnu. Thank you. Okay, I think it's 6 o'clock. So, or do you have a question, Prabhu? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You know, you explained like how the lotus flower expands, like when to separate Lord Krishna
Yeah.
and Radha. So can I help also explain, like in Vrindavan, you know how, like when we go there to get from A to B, we have to take a taxi and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in those days, like people were running around and
Mm.
just on foot going from place to place.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know if that relates.
Yeah, I can see a relation to that. The other factor, maybe from what I know, is in Dwapar Yuga, they were of a different stature and size. So the same land is easier to traverse than a bean Kali Yuga. Like they were taller and bigger, I'm pretty sure, in each Yuga before us. So that might have been one factor in how it's easier for them to do it versus for us to do it. Yes, Shankar Prabhu?
Just not a question, but I just want to comment here that talking about Lord Balaram or Srimati Radha is always difficult topic, but I think you presented so well, so many pastimes and so many like intricate things so very well. Great benefit for all.
Very well.
What a wonderful